Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. We will be discussing women and wealth, taking control of your financial future. We have a wonderful presentation in store for you today, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Tammy Paquette. I am a wealth advisor in the Southern Arizona region here at OneAZ Wealth Management. For more than 18 years, I have been helping individuals and families pursue their long-term financial goals. Here is our information page for your convenience, which contains our required legal disclosures. Our team of wealth advisors assist clients and members of the credit union all over the great state of Arizona. For more information, you can connect with us on social media or scan the QR code on the screen, and it will take you directly to our website, oneazwealth.com. Today's webinar will be in listen-only mode. We will be fielding your questions at the end of the webinar with a Q&A session. At any point during our webinar, you can email your questions to oneazwealth@oneazcu.com. We'll be compiling your questions and we'll answer them at the end of today's presentation. If we do not get to your question today while we're at the presentation, we will respond to your email. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Jocelyn Duncan. Jocelyn is an experienced accredited investment professional committed to helping clients and organizations achieve financial goals and secure their future. Bringing over 30 years of experience in the financial services industry, she holds a deep understanding of markets and investment strategies that can help clients succeed. Before her current role as senior learning consultant at Franklin Templeton, Jocelyn provided investment counseling and designed portfolios for high net worth families, foundations, and not-for-profit organizations. She is coming to us from Victoria, British Columbia area, and we are excited to welcome her in today as our guest speaker. Welcome, Jocelyn, and I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm really excited to be presenting this to you. So let's get started. Welcome to taking control of your financial future. Now, here's a fun fact. We as women are the most dissatisfied with the financial services industry than any other industry that impacts our daily lives. You know, for many of us, going to the dentist is actually more pleasurable than dealing with our finances. So to kick things off, I'd like you to think about the following questions. Okay, what are some of the unique challenges we as women face in financial planning? Do you feel empowered about your long-term wealth planning strategies? What are some of the key events in your life that you should plan for financially? And finally, do you feel like you have enough information and knowledge to take action? During our time together this evening, we're going to address these questions and provide you with some actionable ideas that are going to be very, very easy for you to implement. First, let's talk about our surging economic power. When we talk about investing and financial planning, at the very core of both, they're gender agnostic, okay? Not really designed for specifically men or women. However, there are some key differences between men and women in both of these areas. Take investing, for example. On average, we tend to save more than men. You know, we're very conscientious and responsible, and we tend to be more forward-thinking. We're often perceived as being risk adverse. And what some of the studies show is we tend to be more conservative in our financial planning approach. Now, that could be a downside because potentially we might be missing out on some investment opportunities because we're too risk adverse. And finally, the studies show that men are more confident investors in the sense that they're prone to behaviors and attitudes that make them more comfortable investing without having all the knowledge that might be necessary. You know, we tend to be more risk averse and hesitant and probably afraid of making mistakes. So we are less confident making investment decisions without having a great deal of existing knowledge. It's kind of like we feel we have to know everything before we take action. Now, Do you think that we trade more than men? And what I mean by trading is think about making changes to your investments, the makeup of your investments. Well, the answer is we do this about half as often as men. Well, why is that? Well, compared to men, we're less likely to take on risk, but it doesn't mean that we won't take on risk. We're just a little more risk conscious, and we tend to have a longer term outlook about our investment lives. And we tend to what we call buy and hold. So we're not making a lot of changes. And although men are more confident investors, sometimes they're overconfident and it leads them to try to chase returns and make some mistakes themselves. We tend to be less reactionary. We're a bit calmer. When we hear things that the markets are going a bit crazy on the news, we don't jump on our computers and start making changes to our investments, where men tend to be more reactionary. And so it's positive for us to be like we are because, again, most times our investment lives are about long-term goals down the road. So if we're making these short knee-jerk reactions, that could lead to us, buying when things are at the very peak and then selling when things are at the very bottom. And that is not a great recipe for investment success. Now, on average, this is great news. Our returns are higher than the men's. Why is that? Well, more than half of the women say that, they stay the course with their investments. So even if there's a dip, again, we're just buying and holding. So we're less likely to pull investments out and, let's say, run to cash in an economic downturn. And this will set us up for greater long-term success. And because we're already striving for goals that are down the road, by not making reactionary decisions, on average, our returns turn out to be about 0.4% higher per year. Now, 0.4% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you accumulate that over time, that can be a significant difference in the amount of returns that we get. Right now, women in the US are controlling about 1/3 of all the wealth, and about 50% of us are the breadwinners in the household. But let's break this down by generations. If we look at the Gen Z and millennial group, about 95% of women are the decision maker on the main account because we know households have several different accounts. So I'm just going to be talking about the main account here. And I'm a super old Gen X, and in my household, about 82% of women are the decision makers on that main account. And then baby boomers, you're noticing a trend here dropping, only about 64%. So what does this tell us? Well, women's struggles with financial, independence, I guess, is pretty historically rooted, so it poses a broader societal question. Why is that? Well, some statistics show that younger generations in the US, like labor participation, so people working, is about the same for men and women. In fact, the studies show we're more educated and we're more likely to finish college. So why is it that so many women are struggling with financial independence? Well, in the older generations, when the role of women in society was a little bit more limited, I guess, it led to situations where very often, the woman was doing all the work around the house and they left the key financial decision making to men. I was brought up in a household like that. My dad worked, my mom stayed at home, and my mom just didn't, that was my dad's job to look after all the finances. And so societal norms and cultural expectations, they often shape an individual's attitude towards money. And it continues to do so today. So very often it takes more than one generation for attitudes to change, to be passed down to future generations. So, in time, the Gen Z and millennial, that will become more norm as we've got the newest generations, Alpha, and as of this year, Beta, that have come in to our generations. Now, in the US, right now, women control about 12 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars in assets. So again, they're already making key decisions and the economic power is absolutely surging. And then there's this thing called the Great Wealth Transfer. So in the next 5 years, there's going to be trillions and trillions of dollars that pass to the next generation. And women are going to be the main recipients. So it's going to be spouses and the adult female children of some of the people that are passing away and passing money down. So in 5 years, $30 trillion is going to be controlled by us. Now, I want to share with you 5 of the top financial stressors that women told us they have. Franklin Templeton did a survey not too long ago, and we asked women investors kind of, what keeps you up at night when it comes to your finances? Well, the first thing was, we think we should be thinking more and doing more with our finances than we are. Okay. Maybe it's you've talked to a friend or neighbor and wow, they're doing this and that. Maybe I should be doing it too. A big one. Have I saved enough? Do I have enough money to actually retire? And then I think we've all been saddled with debt at certain points of our lives. There's a big concern. Am I going to be able to pay off my debt? And then am I going to have enough to retire? I mean, this all adds up. And then for those of us that are getting older, we start recognizing and facing the cost of healthcare. In retirement, it shows that the cost of our healthcare is going to increase. And finally, where do we even start? How do you even know where to start to invest to create these savings that you need for retirement? So these are all the things that are keeping us up at night. So remember when I said that investing in financial planning are gender agnostic. However, economic challenges grow more complex over time. We need to focus on comprehensive financial plans and, saving more as we face the impact of, things like gender pay gap. There's still in many industries where men are earning more than women for the same job. And also longevity trends. Currently, women outlive men globally on an average of 4 years. And I tell gentlemen when I speak to them, it's like, no, it's not because we're killing you. It's just the facts. And then we have daily expenses. Inflation's getting under control, but it's still high. We all know, like things, utilities and gas and groceries and health expenses, that makes saving a real challenge because things keep going up. And then what about when life throws a curveball? Let's say saving enough for, I don't know, you need a new roof, or education, or maybe you would like to take a vacation. And some of these might seem unnecessary or even unattainable, but planning for these expenses is essential for being financially prepared. And then finally, retirement's got a ton of challenges. I actually was retired and then I unretired. You need to make sure that you have enough income to enjoy the things that you plan to do in retirement, and again, setting aside things for healthcare as you age. And those are the things that are going to make planning for retirement really essential. So there are things that are unique to us. It not only makes our journey through our lives very unique and different, but it also makes our investment and financial journey very different. Right now in the US, over 32 million families have kids under the age of 18. And just the facts, women compared to men take more extended leaves from the workplace. Maybe it's maternity leave or caring for elderly parents. And these absences can lower your income and subsequently the amount that you're going to be able to save for your future retirement. And again, we're the ones that are most likely to take time off work. According to the US Bureau of Labor, of those people employed right now in the US, women are employed at a much lower rate compared to men in households with kids under the age of 18. It's partly due because women tend to be the primary choice of parent that stays at home with the children. Not always. I'm not painting this brush on everyone, but that's just the statistics in the majority. And about 16% of you are unemployed. So you can spend time caring for not just kids, but maybe an ailing loved one, or maybe it's part-time work that you're choosing. So being out of the workforce might be the right choice, but it's really important to understand that the potential impact could have financially and emotionally for you and your families, but knowing how to prepare and plan for this is key to help lower the stress level. So how can we navigate some of these events? Well, one strategy for managing current spending and future savings goals is to consider the bucket approach. There's many different ways to do the bucket approach, but this is our suggestion. In order to meet short-term needs, so we're talking 0 to 2 years, you're going to want to invest that money or have that money sitting in something that's very liquid, meaning that you can get access to it at any time. You won't pay any fees or penalties if you need the cash. A great recipe for this is high interest savings account. I know many places have those. And then we have our midterm, so 2 to 10 years. Now this bucket is also going to refill the short-term bucket as it starts running dry. So you're going to want to have a mix of things, maybe some bonds or things that might come due every so often, like a ladder of that, or maybe it's some balanced funds, or Tammy's the expert on all that, so she'd be able to guide you on that one. And then finally, we have longer term goals. Okay, so you want to invest in things that are going to act as an inflation hedge. So it might be some different types of funds with stocks in them, or real estate, because we all know what the price of real estate has done recently. And so think of this as your bucket also too, that's going to ensure when you live for a long, long time. So it's kind of like your longevity insurance. Now, as you navigate through your financial life, there are several identifiable life stages. The first one is, we're going to call this your growing your literacy. So this is a group of individuals. It could be like think of millennials or Gen Z. They're just starting out. So maybe they're just entering the workforce. It could be your younger beneficiaries or heirs. And essentially, they're really focusing on just starting and broadening their financial literacy. And then you've got the accumulating wealth stage. So these are people who are more established. Maybe they're settled in their careers, and maybe they're helping manage all the finances in the household too. So it could also be the stage where they might be married or have a partner, children, and they've already started to develop and put away for this nest egg for retirement. And what happens in this stage is your financial planning needs become much more complex. A lot of tax type issues start being factored in. You might have multiple retirement accounts. So you need some help, especially at this stage. And then finally, when we're younger, we accumulate. And then once we hit retirement age, we decumulate. Okay, so generally it's creating an income for your retirement, but it also could be essentially someone who's not in the workforce any longer. It could be a disability that has happened that's preventing them from working. So the key in this stage, you're no longer saving, but you've turned the tap the other way, and now you are taking an income stream from all the hard work you did in saving. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into each of these. So in the growing literacy stage, there's some key things to consider for this little cohort. Okay, remember, Gen Z, millennials, they're starting out young, they're taking charge of their financial life, but some things that are really important, starting to maybe create a budget for yourself, figure out what you're spending on everyday things like rent and utilities and that, and figure out how much is possible for you to save at this point. And creating a plan for your longer term savings. But this group too usually comes with a lot of debt, especially if they've got student loan debt to pay off. Again, so there's a fine, delicate balance between paying off debt and saving for retirement. And then also at this young age is the best time to look at risk management. And by risk management, I mean, life insurance, disability insurance, all of those considerations, because we know they're much less expensive when you start when you're younger. And then, of course, we've just married that with a to-do list, establish an emergency fund, write down a budget, pay yourself first, build your credit. I remember when I was super young, I went out and I bought some furniture, and I purposely did it on credit just so I had a credit rating. It's amazing how many people didn't establish a credit rating. They paid for everything, but that's how you do it. So these are all the considerations at that stage. And then again, so the accumulating phase, again, professionals, they've already started saving. The financial planning aspect becomes more complex again, so we might have to go to more advanced planning. Then there's likely some more family considerations to take into account. And at this point, you might start thinking about your legacy. Okay. When people are alive, they want their money to work for them, but ultimately, when they pass away, they want it to benefit loved ones or causes that they hold dear to them. And then finally, tax management. Taxes, very frustrating, but it's got to be dealt with. So maybe you want to start establishing, a good relationship with a CPA as well as your financial professional as well. And some of the to-do lists, check in annually. Make sure that you're on track. Make adjustments when necessary and pivot if you have to. Understand future benefit options, like get to know all the ins and outs of Social Security and Medicare. Maybe you're in a stock program at your company, or maybe you have a defined benefit or contribution pension plan. The key is get a handle on all of these things. It sounds daunting, but when you just, pick away at it one at a time and consistently do it year after year, it's not so bad or daunting. Now, our distributing phase. Okay, remember, this is when you're not in the workforce. It could be your retirement years, or it could be because of an unforeseen disability. Financial literacy weaves through all of these stages in your life, making sure that you're informed. Now, at this stage of your life, more considerations around healthcare and planning for that as we get older, and income planning. Like, let's say you have 401ks or you have benefits at work, what do I start to spend first? What is the most efficient way to actually take this income from all the hard work I did in saving? Okay. Here's a time where you might consider options in the future for long-term care, or do I want to age in my house, or do I want to move into like a Ritz-Carlton of retirement homes down the road? It's time to really start figuring out what the costs are going to look like, what maybe family dynamics are going to look like. And then finally, estate planning. And estate planning is tricky because it's always talking about when someone isn't going to be here, but it's really important. And if you want or planning to leave a legacy, that you plan for it when you're alive. That's the time to be doing it. And again, your to-do list, reviewing your budget. Maybe you have a backup budget, annual reviews of your healthcare, making sure that's all on track. And then it's really important too. The statistics show that most people would like their kids to continue the relationship with their existing financial advisor, but yet most people have never even introduced. So now is the time to start building that new relationship between, let's say, your kids and your financial advisor. And then life is never linear. There are curveballs that happen, okay? So we need to prepare for the unexpected, and when these things happen, it's important that you share dialogue with loved ones. I'm a big proponent of family meetings, okay, where everybody is on the right track, where they know how you want your assets distributed, how, if someone is supposed to be an executor, that they're aware of that, making sure everybody knows where important documents are. All of these things are just absolutely critical. I was doing the seminar and a woman put up her hand and she said, well, I keep all my documents in the freezer. And, people chuckled and said, well, why? And she goes, well, I live alone. And when I die, somebody's got to clean up my freezer. She's not wrong, but there are other options. I'm just saying. So, now is the time to-do list. Make sure that you have wills in place, powers of attorney, medical directives. If someone has to be making key life medical decisions on your behalf, you want to make sure it's the person that you want doing that. And again, these backup budgets that I talk about, more relationships with professionals, lawyers, accountants, but there are also other professionals that are advocates for seniors, okay, that can help with some of these things like, housing options as we age. And again, working with your financial advisor, like working with Tammy to schedule these family meetings, get everybody in the same room. It's important. Not all families want to do it, but it's pretty critical. And then finally, women, we face another really unique challenge in our lives because I don't know how to quite say this, but more often than not, we're going to end up being single. And I'm not just saying single when you're single, but because of divorces or being widowed. Remember, we live longer. Okay, so we're going to find ourselves being single at more than one point likely in our lives than men. Okay, so it's super important with divorce or death, that you have a support network. Again, making sure that documents are all in place and up to date. Especially with divorce and things like that, you want to, sit down with a financial professional to make sure that you're going to be okay, that you have an income plan in place. Again, there are different tax considerations that happen when someone passes away or when people go through divorces. So, when these things happen, you're going to need to update everything. Okay, because very often we might have named a spouse as our beneficiary on everything, or our medical directives. That's all going to be need to be redone. So again, super critical to work with a financial professional. Okay, so how can we actually do this? Like, where do we start? Well, again, one thing at a time, but there are some really key areas that you should talk to a financial professional about. Social Security. I'm up here in Canada, and even, just learning a little bit about your Social Security in the US, like, there's a lot of moving parts. Like, there's a lot to know. So starting to get a handle on that, I think is a really good idea. And then retirement savings. People always say, well, when should I start saving for retirement? Well, now, as soon as you possibly can. And don't feel bad, because we understand, like, people have debt, people have other commitments. And when people have young families, it might not have been so easy to start saving in your 20s and 30s, but it's never too late to start. And then, well, where do I put it? Again, you work with Tammy, she'll tell you, because there are thousands of different investment choices that will match who you are. Okay, it's not a one size fits all. You need to have a customized plan created for you based on your unique situation. And by that, I mean, create a financial plan, that takes into account your short, mid, and long-term objectives, and that you can check and pivot and alter accordingly. And this slide's actually older. Here's good news. For those of us, I'm not yet, but 65 today, you can expect to live between 25 and 30 years. So 85 to 90, okay? Not 80. So we're living longer. And that's great news, but the downside is we have to plan for a longer retirement, okay? For some people, they could be in retirement longer than they were ever in the workforce. So that can create a lot of challenges, okay? And then inflation is going to continue. I mean, healthcare alone, it's expected to rise about 5.8% annually over the next 10 years. So some of our grocery prices might be coming down, but the cost of our healthcare is going up. So you need to make sure that you've planned and taken all those things into account. But the biggest thing is here, don't procrastinate. Don't be scared. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel nervous. Again, working with a financial professional, like, for those of us who have ever worked with a personal trainer, okay? We look after our bodies, right? Well, what does a personal trainer do? Well, they coach us. They create a customized plan for us, both physical activity and diet, and then they keep us on track, okay? They make sure that we're continuing the course and doing the right thing. So ultimately, we achieve our long-term objectives. So think of Tammy as your personal trainer in the finance world. All right. Let's button this up. Let's go back to where we started. We chatted about some of the challenges that we face when it comes to investing and financial planning. We have some unique things as women. We saw that how our journey through life is unique, and it turns out that it makes our financial journey a little bit more challenging to navigate. And then finally, we discussed some ways that you can take action to build and preserve your financial future, and with the guidance and expert of Tammy and her team. You can start today taking control of your financial future. And with that, thank you very much for your attention. And I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Tammy.
Well, that concludes the information portion of our presentation. A lot of great information. And we have a number of questions that are coming in, and we will start to answer those. Again, please feel free to send us any questions that you have. OneAZ Wealth at oneazcu.com, and we will be sure to address them. Okay, our first question How does retirement affect long-term student loan payments? Will my payment amount be adjusted based on my new income, my new lower income? So based on the information I know and am aware of in regards to student loans, if you have a long-term payment plan, it's a 20 to 25-year payment plan. They don't change those payment plans, but I can't tell you that won't change. I can't tell you that the person you're doing your loan through, there are forbearances, there's different reasons. So it's never hurts to ask. It never hurts to question and see if there is something that you can do. So I would tell you to ask, especially if you haven't budgeted for that and you're not sure you can afford it, then definitely be asking those questions. Next question. I am starting my journey to Social Security. What do I need to know? There's a lot to know about Social Security, as Jocelyn had mentioned earlier. There's income limits if you retire prior to full retirement age. There's taxable portions of your Social Security if you make too much money. There is a lot in there. You can pull half of your spouse's or even an ex-spouse if you were married at least 10 years, even if you're no longer married. There's a lot to Social Security and the options that you have. So I would say you need to speak with an advisor and then also speak with somebody at Social Security to make sure you make the right choice for yourself, because it is kind of a one chance. You make the election and then you're done. You don't have another option to choose later. So make sure you make that right choice. Regarding debt recovery, liquidate or refinance an asset, our national debt relief program's legit. There are some really good ones out there. My suggestion would be definitely sit down and talk to a financial advisor, somebody that can help you with your finances to make sure you're doing the right thing. Is a debt relief program correct, or is that going to hurt me and damage me in the future, especially if I'm planning to retire? We don't have a particular debt relief program to refer you to, but we can definitely sit down and talk to you and look at options, help you find a good one if needed. Could you please provide information on how our firm charges clients? Specifically, do you operate on a fee-only basis or do you charge a percentage of assets under management? So we are fee-based advisors. We earn fees from clients. We also earn commissions from selling products. So it really depends on what you do. And when you sit down with one of us, we definitely discuss in detail how money is made, how you are charged for things, if you are charged, because there are some things with no fees associated with there. So there's a lot of different options. Again, like Jocelyn said earlier, there's thousands of investment options out there. So let's make sure that you're doing what is in your best interest. And we all have a fiduciary responsibility to do what is in your best interest. So that is our goal, always, to help you look at multiple options and pick the best products for you. What is the best strategy for preparing for retirement that is 10 years away, coupled with the fact that I will most likely move to another country before retirement, but definitely after? So for me, preparing for retirement is definitely living on a budget. My experience is about 98% of the people that I talk to do not have a budget, have never lived on a budget, don't even know how to make a budget. There are a lot of programs and stuff out there. There's apps for your smartphones to help you get on a budget. Learn to live on that budget, because once you retire, you're on a fixed income. So having a budget and being able to live on that budget is huge. And then getting a plan together. Sit down with a financial advisor so you know the cost of moving. What assets do you have? Where can you pull from? What buckets are we going to do to move, to live on? There's a lot of different options there. So let's make sure that you're getting the right things and doing the right things with your money so you can get to where you want to be. Where can I put money where it is safe from a recession? Well, there are multiple investments that you can invest in that protect assets. And this would be something that you would need to meet with an advisor so that they can ask you questions, get more specifics to make sure that you are put into the correct investment for your protection. Let's make sure that we do the right things with your money so that you don't make a mistake and then cause yourself a problem in the future. The next question just says estate planning. Yes, is my answer. Everyone should do this. Everybody should have an estate plan, a will, a trust. POAs or power of attorneys need to be named, executors, beneficiaries on all your stuff. Having a plan on your finances so that you know, hey, I do want to have a legacy. I want to transition these assets to my beneficiaries, my heirs. Definitely have an estate plan. It is a big one. So I would tell you to do that as well. This is a good one. I would like tips on the best way to get. Wait, I would like tips and ways to get rid of debt the quickest way. For example, do I pay off higher interest or lower interest, higher dollar amount versus lower dollar amount? Now, this is a personal preference, but the biggest thing is you pick one debt to focus on at a time. All of your extra money goes to that one debt, and then you move to the next debt. So say we have 5 different debts. There are minimum payments. So all of them are minimum payments, but one. So we have $500 we can put on one and then $100 on each of the other ones. So the first one, you're going to put that $500 on it. When that is paid off, you take that 500 and now we're paying 600 on the next one. Decide what order. Me personally, if you're going to ask me what I would do, I would pick the highest interest so that I'm paying the least amount to the people that I've borrowed money from. So the highest interest gets paid off first, and then I go that way. Your house would be always the last one to focus on just because of the fact that you can write that interest off. So it is a help in regards to taxes. And we're not going to do a ton of questions tonight just because I know we all want our time back at the end of the night. So this one I'm going to ask Jocelyn to answer. What is one thing about personal finance you wish you'd known in your 20s?
Well, Tammy, I'll give you 2. The first thing, if I could go back and talk to my 20-something-year-old self, I would tell her, don't get married 3 times and divorced twice. Because dividing by 2 a couple times, it kind of prolongs your retirement planning. But what I really wish I would have known is I paid a lot of rent over the years to a lot of landlords. I would have, if possible, found a way to somehow get into the real estate market so I could start building up equity. Because, I give younger people advice now. It says, once you're in the market, you're in the market, right? So if things are going up, you're going up, right? But what I found is just, paying thousands and thousands in rent and then having nothing to show for it.
That is a great one. I agree 100%. Buying property, buying a house, even if you move and you have to sell it, at least you're getting something that you have, you've accumulated more wealth in regards to that home. You're not paying somebody else and letting them be rich. You're owning it yourself. It's a great investment for sure. The other thing I would say that I think is very, very important is when you start and you have retirement plans, because I started working, I had retirement plans when I was really young and even when I was in college, and I didn't have enough money in there, so they just cashed it out. I didn't know my options. I would tell you, always roll it over into an IRA or into another 401k, accumulate those assets. I would have a lot more money for retirement if I would have done that instead of cashing out and allowing companies just to force me out of plans because I didn't have enough saved when I left the company. So that's a pretty big one for me. I would say definitely keeping your retirement alive and don't just cash it out. And the other one is I'm going to tell everybody, you start saving as soon as you can. If you can't when you're younger, fine. As soon as you can possibly start saving, the better. If you have a 401k, participate in the 401k. If they're going to match 3%, put 3% in. It really isn't that much out of your retirement. Out of your income. And they're giving you the 3%. So you're just doubling your money when you put it in there without doing anything. So just start. That's the biggest thing. And this will be the last question I'll do for tonight, just to kind of give you guys some time back with your families, is how to grow and keep as much of my wealth as possible. So this is investing. You need to invest and talk with an advisor. Get a plan together to meet your specific needs. That's the best bet to get you on the right track. Let us ask you a lot of questions, figure out exactly what you're looking for, what you're wanting to do, and we will definitely come up with a plan to help you get there. Like I told them earlier in the meeting this afternoon, I am like your financial mom. You start working with me, you want to change a plan or something like that, I'm going to treat you, I'm going to be like, why are we changing this? This is what our plan was. What's changed? Plans do change, things come up, things happen in life, and we definitely have to make changes, but sometimes we're making a change just because we feel like, oh, I really want to do this. And it's not always the best choice. So getting somebody to help you is great. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. We hope our presentation has provided some helpful information and guidance. We at OneAZ Wealth Management welcome your feedback and comments. So please email us any suggestions that you have for future webinar topics. As always, our entire OneAZ Wealth team of advisors stands ready to assist you in reviewing your current financial plan and portfolio in light of today's economy. There's no better time than the present for a second opinion on your current plan. We welcome your call. Please call us at 877-566-0517 or visit our website at oneazwealth.com for more information in creating your personal financial and retirement plan. Please, if you want, take a picture of the screen that's up there right now. You will be able to, that has all the phone numbers and emails and all of that. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us.